Calling from a 571 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Dan. I am calling from California.
Dan from California. What's on your mind?
I was listening to the show yesterday, and there was a brief reference to Atlas Shrugged at one point.
Okay.
I think Emma said that she learned about, quote, Atlas Shrugged and all that bullshit, unquote.
Okay.
So that was interesting to me, and
what,
I was curious to...
What do you mean by interesting?
Well, I have a very different view of Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged myself, so
all right.
I want to see if we could discuss that a bit.
Sure.
And hear why she thinks that of it, or what you think of it.
Yes, bullshit. Dan, let me ask you a question. Did you and I talk last week?
Yes, I'm the one who called in about the chat policy.
About the chat policy. Everything is coming together now. Are you a libertarian, Dan?
No, I'm an objectivist.
What does that mean?
Well,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Objectivism is an entire philosophy. That's one thing. It's not just a political philosophy.
Also, it's a religion, too.
Well, I don't know.
Well, wait a second.
No, it's anti-religion.
Yeah, tell me what it is, not just what it isn't.
Okay. So there's 5 branches of philosophy, and I could go through and just actually, Ayn Rand was actually asked, can you say what objectivism is while standing on one foot? And she did that once. There's an article called Introducing Objectivism, which you can find on the internet, and she does this. So I can give you the brief standing on one foot version. So in metaphysics, the view of what is the fundamental nature of reality like, she thinks there's just one world. There's no supernatural world. There's no God. It's just this world which we perceive with our senses and which we understand with our reason. And then second branch, epistemology, in other words, the study of the nature of knowledge. She's pro-reason, so she's anti-faith, which makes her anti-religion.
Okay.
She only believes in what you can prove by logic and reason and evidence of your senses. And then third branch, ethics. How should we live? She believes in a morality of rational self-interest, so you should do what's best for yourself.
Right.
I know that
while respecting the rights of others, neither sacrificing yourself to others nor others to yourself.
Right. Okay.
Fourth branch, the final branch.
Now that would you say that third branch, the one about pursuing your own self-interests, that one's when we start getting into politics a little bit, right?
Yeah. So she believes in individual rights. In her last branch, political philosophy, she believes in capitalism, and the way she understands that, I think it's often smeared today, but how she understands it is that you can't initiate force against other people. If you did that, you would be violating their rights. So you can do whatever you want as long as you don't use physical force against other people.
Right, the non-aggression policy, right?
How do you think, like,
well,
forests
that's what libertarians
privatized?
sometimes call it. I think she didn't use that phrase. Sometimes it's called the non-initiation of force principle.
Fair enough.
But
Fair enough. Now, these are things that you subscribe to too, right? I mean, this isn't. I mean, she's just the person who came up with this stuff. You don't perceive her as some type of like demigod or anything.
Or like a deity, right? Since it's not religious in nature.
I mean, I admire her tremendously.
I mean, that
but
comes
I don't
across.
think she's like a supernatural being.
Okay, but I mean, in terms of like just non-supernatural beings, she's right up there, right? Like, I mean, she's almost supernatural.
She's like Plato, basically.
Right?
I think she was a heroic person, and she lived a very admirable
Did it bum you out when
life.
you found out that she took Social Security?
No, actually, I recently produced a video about that, which I'm going to be releasing soon on my YouTube channel, which deals with the that smear of her that she was a hypocrite for taking money back that was looted from her through this program. And she actually discussed it herself in her article, The Question of Scholarships, which is available free on the internet. So there's no problem at all. It's perfectly consistent with her principles of non-coercion.
I see. Okay. She was just retrieving her property, as it were.
Exactly.
What about Medicare?
Well, she thinks that people should not be forced to pay for others' people's
Actually,
healthcare.
Medicare pays out more than it takes in. That's why I asked Medicare.
Well, it's premised on taxation. Everything that is funded by taxation is funded by a coercive means.
Right.
So if you want to voluntarily help pay for other people's health care, you are free to do that in a capitalist system.
Right.
What you are not free to do is to forcibly take others people's money and make them.
Don't believe in taxation. Don't believe in taxation.
Oh, or coercion.
Right. If you understand that to mean coercion, then right, she's against it.
She's against tax. Well, taxation is necessarily coercive. You don't really get a choice. If you're going to be a member of this society.
I've heard people define it in different ways. Some people think, some people talk about voluntary taxes, and you might not want to use the word.
There's no such thing as voluntary taxes.
You understand it in the
taxes are coercive. Period. Definitionally.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. If you understand it that way, then yeah, she's against taxes.
Okay. All right. And let's just be clear here. You're not infertile. Because I sort of felt bad the other day. I was a little bit confused as to whether or not you could actually have children. But that's neither here nor there.
I know that was a funny little bit that people have made a lot of hay of.
I know it. It was funny. I mean, actually, here, hold on, play the song for 1 second. Did you hear this? Because I want to get into I want to get into the political aspects of your philosophy that guides your life. Because I'm not really that terribly interested in philosophies. But play this. This is actually pretty funny.
This video is aimed at anyone who wants to learn more about infertility.
I was wondering if you're open to talking about your chat room policy.
That is in the bylaws.
Yes, please tell me what my chat room policy is.
It's just saying silly comments.
YouTube chat.
So I block the people who are being rude and obnoxious to me.
All right, that's good. We should put a link to that song. It's pretty amazing.
It's called Dante's Infertile.
Yeah.
Kind of a good pun.
All right, but Dan, not Dante.
Yeah.
Let's listen. I got to be honest with you. I'm not terribly interested in your philosophy, in philosophies, like how this deals with your life. I mean, whether you believe in God or not believe in God or anything like that. That's all. I don't. None of that stuff really is implicated in the context of this show. But I'm more interested in what it means in terms of your politics. Now, you don't believe in taxes. You think taxes are immoral. And do you believe in and you believe that society can do better if everyone pursues their own self-interest? Is that one of the tenets of your philosophy or worldview? Okay.
Yeah,
now let me ask you this.
Okay.
What do you do about antibiotics? Would you take antibiotics? Because, if everybody takes antibiotics, which is, for anything, which as an individual makes a lot of sense because, if I have something that can be cleared up by antibiotics, I take it. If it doesn't clear it up, there's no really big harm in terms of the antibiotics, me taking them, as long as I take them as prescribed. However, when we get into the overuse of antibiotics, we are developing superorganisms or organisms that are mutating and making antibiotics less effective. So what do you do in that type of situation?
What do you do with antibiotics?
What do you do with the impetus to do what's in your rational self-interest when in fact you pursuing your rational self-interest actually has a detriment to society?
Well, if you can show that it does physical harm to other people, then you could...
Well, it doesn't do physical harm to other people. It makes antibiotics less effective if you just take them all the time, if you're not in any way circumspect in the way that you take them. But it is in your own individual self-interest to have antibiotics. I mean, I imagine you wouldn't even allow for the licensing of people to prescribe drugs. Why would the state do that?
Why? I mean, a licensing. I don't.
No, don't get caught up in the licensing. I'm just saying that the reason why we inhibit the use of antibiotics is not because it's not in the interest of any given individual at any given instance to take antibiotics. It's because we're afraid of antibiotics becoming ineffective.
Wait, so you're saying that if people take antibiotics,
if there's too much use of antibiotics, there is a great fear within the medical community, and there's a lot of indications that the overusage of antibiotics, on the whole, the collective overuse of antibiotics is making them less effective long term. And yet, as an individual, it makes sense for me to defer to antibiotics because there's no detriment to me as an individual to take these antibiotics.
Okay. So you're saying there's a conflict between what's good for the individual
Correct.
and what's good for the society.
Yeah.
I mean, there are kinds of examples like that you could raise, and it's not always obvious.
Right? I mean, it's pretty obvious.
This one's obvious.
This one's super obvious. That's why I brought it up. It's super obvious.
So you think assuming this effect is real, the solution that's obvious is what?
Well, the point is that it sort of puts to it illustrates that what might be good in the rational self-interest of the individual is not good in the interest of the collective and of society. And I wonder how someone like you deals with that reality.
Well, one thing I'm saying here is it's not always obvious what the solution is. Like, I don't know what I would do personally about this if I were.
How does that square with your philosophy?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. This is something I would have to think about. I mean, you're talking about a medical situation, and it's got these.
Well, I'm talking about the concept of. I mean, there's a lot of examples, frankly, where we can talk about what's good for the individual isn't necessarily good for society. You know, one of those things actually came up in the Republican presidential primary last round, 2015. It was in the rational self-interest of all of those candidates to not attack Donald Trump early on because they didn't want to alienate Donald Trump's sizable support. However, they ended up all losing, and arguably the Republican Party ended up losing on some level, and certainly I think society did. Maybe you disagree, because they acted in their own rational self-interest. What I'm trying to do is to give you, illustrations and examples of when your philosophy, and I know it's rather rigid, is wrong.
Yep.
Okay, well, I mean, if you can come up with a clear example,
I feel like I just gave you two.
Well, here's a question. Do you go to work?
I do.
Do you have a steady job?
Yes.
What happens if you don't go to work?
Then I will not get paid.
Right. And you need to be paid to exist in society. Is that correct?
Well, unless I file for some government program like a welfare that coerces people to support myself.
Can we just historicize that for a moment?
Wait, where are you going?
Right, but you are coerced to go to work, are you not, to continue to exist in society?
No, I choose to go to work.
But you choose to go to work, but you can't exist in society without going to work. How is that a choice?
I could exist in society without going for work. It might not be very good. I could live as a bum on the street and try to panhandle for money, and some people do that.
And a lot of them die.
And a lot of them, yeah, it's not a great way to live. I wouldn't choose it for myself.
You also could not pay taxes. You also could not pay taxes, as you say. You could be a conscientious non-taxpayer and go to prison and still live. Or you could live as a bum, as you'd say, on the street. So there are narrow exceptions to these coercive concepts that you're talking about. It's just which coercion makes sense for society, because you already are being coerced into a job.
No, I don't accept that.
Okay, caller, can I try? Caller, do you know what the word enclosure means?
I've heard of that. I had a debate with a communist on YouTube, and he talked about enclosures in England, and I said I didn't know much about that, but...
It's not just in England. I mean, it's anywhere that you take land that was commonly held by the community and make it private property, a process that started basically like 400 years ago. Prior to that, you could just go into the woods and, you know, be self-sufficient or be among your community. But in this epoch we live now, what Emma said is true. So you can't just like opt out of this situation. It is a fundamental coercion, since basically we've privatized every way to live on your own self-sufficiently.
You think well, first of all, not everything is. Have
you tried hunting in America?
There's a ton of government. There's a ton of land that's owned by the governments.
And capitalists are going after it over and over again in America, and a lot less in Europe, right? So, like, but do you think that land should be held in common, or do you think that should be private property?
In general, maybe there are some exceptions, like government land for government buildings, but the vast majority, at least, I think, should be private. Right.
So then it's owned. So, like, for instance, if you wanted to go hunt for food, you would have to ask the landowner for permission.
Yeah. If you're hunting on somebody's land, then yeah, I would think you need permission to hunt or do anything else on their land.
So the self-sufficiency goes out the window unless you're basically on good with the local landowner.
I mean, you can rent from somebody. I don't know. So are you thinking self-sufficient?
Well, no, I think the point is he's saying, like, you know, you have this option of becoming a bum. But I mean, if we lived in the world that you wanted to live, there would be no place where you were allowed to live as what you call a bum. Right? Like, I mean, in your worldview, there are no public streets. There are no public sidewalks. There's only we'll make allowances for governmental buildings. But how do you, in your worldview, where it's not coercive for you to have a job, how do you exist? Because you walk on that private property, dude, and you don't have a place to live or to be. I'm going to say get out.
I don't think it's that hard to support yourself. You work a job. You pay some.
Well, no. We're not talking about hard. We're not talking about hard. We're talking about because you're talking about a philosophy, right? Like, I mean, this is why I don't subscribe to some type of, like, you know, principles that I have to, that provide answers for me in every situation, like ostensibly objectivism does. But you do. And your philosophy is that, I mean, you just said dictates to you that having to work is not coercive anyway. And we said, well, how is that the case? If you want to live in society, you need to work. And he's like, no, I could choose to live as a bum, you said, and hang out. And I'm suggesting to you that if the other part of your philosophy, which was that we should only have private property, short of maybe a government owning a place for their building, my question to you would be, like, whose private property are you going to be able to trespass upon in your life as a guy who doesn't make money in this society? Like, where are you going to sleep at night, dude?
Well, I mean, you're putting yourself in that problem.
No. You're putting yourself in that property. You're that problem. You're saying that there is an option to not working and to not getting government largesse. And what is that option in which you can survive?
You choose to work, so you don't.
No. Listen.
But if
you're avoiding the question. I'm saying it's a choice. It's a free choice, right? So there must be an option.
Yeah.
What's the option to not working in this society, in particularly the society that you envision, where everything is owned privately? You tell me what you, Dan, fertile or not, is going to do. You have made the choice to not work, to not earn any money in society. You've also, because of your philosophy, said that the government should not be providing any help to you, Dan. So, Dan, You have this free choice. What's the choice? Talk to me about the choice that you choose not to work. What happens then?
Well, assuming I make that bad choice, I don't know why I would do that, but if I make that choice...
Well, because you can, because of freedom.
You're not being coerced.
Freedom, right?
Yeah, if I stupidly make the choice not to work, stupidly make the choice not to work,
right,
then I would have to rely on charity.
Wait. No, let's talk about the day you get knocked out of your apartment, right? You can't pay your rent on your apartment. Where do you go?
I don't know. Maybe I go to a park or something.
Whoa. A public park? Dude, wait. Dude, we're living in Dan's world. There are no public parks.
Yeah, maybe in Dan's world, we would create a park for people exactly in the kind of situation.
Who's we? Wait. We?
Yeah.
Wait.
Maybe some...
We?
Anybody,
what do you mean, we?
Say you're some capitalist businessman and you don't want to have dead or sick poor people just going at random places, so you create...
No, wait, who's done that? Who's ever done that? Well, we're not going to do that. You can't rely on somebody's largesse.
We have homeless people now.
I want to know. Yeah, exactly. Wait, what do you mean, we? Dan, what do you do? You've been kicked out of your apartment. Where do you go?
Look, if I were running the show...
No, Dan, you're not running the show. You simply made the free choice. You can say it's smart or not smart. Well, that's debatable, but you made the free choice to not work because work is not coercive in our society, according to you. You don't need money. You can choose to do something else. You've been kicked out of your apartment because your landlord has said you haven't paid rent. Where do you go? You step out that door. Where do you go?
You're saying every inch of the earth is owned by someone.
You just said to me, Dan, you don't believe in public property. You believe that it should be privatized. So where do you go?
All right, let me see if I can think this through. So I'm kicked out of my apartment, and I guess any other street I walk on. Oh, I hear the music.
Yep. It's like the game show. You're thinking you get time to think. Choose door number 1, door number 2 type of thing. I'm just trying to fill time.
So much would be different. There would be so much different in this world that I don't know what all the options would be. I would assume that the free market would have evolved a mechanism by this time to handle the kind of,
well, that's a hell of an assumption.
Well, wait a second. I'm just curious what that evolution would look like. The free market would be like incinerator. Like maybe we get if you can't pay your rent and you got to step out, we're not going to allow you to step on. You're not walking on my sidewalk.
Into the fire pit.
Historically,
that's the cheapest way to do it.
The solution is penal colony.
Yeah, maybe I would put you in a labor camp, like a privatized one, of course, or maybe the incinerator. Maybe I get a contract from somebody from the government, but there's that nasty government again. I guess the point is that I'm trying to make here, and the reason why you can't come up with this answer is either the need for money is coercive in our society, or the world in which you envision is not real or possible. You are imagining
about this really weird case. I'm curious. It's not going to be.
It's just the one that just happened. It was just literally the one that just sort of we walked into because we could have had this conversation about, and it could have been 20 other examples.
Because you said work isn't coercive, and you're saying taxes are coercive, but work is not. That's why we're in this hypothetical right now.
Well, let me ask you about this. If you're alone on an island, you have to work to survive, right?
What?
If you're alone on an island, do you have to work to survive?
Do I have to work to survive? I would.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I'm alone on the island, guess what? I brought also a bunch of food and a bunch of other stuff, too.
Well, how about if there's 2 people on the island, does one own it and the other works for the person?
No. Hold on. You're getting ahead of
Okay, sorry.
Us. You're alone on the island.
Yeah.
Do you have to work to survive?
I would imagine.
Yeah, I probably have to do some fishing, maybe build some shelter.
Okay. Are you being coerced?
No.
Okay, so just because you have to work to survive doesn't mean you're being coerced.
Well, I don't have to earn any money.
Yeah, exactly. You're not making any money. You're not earning a wage from a capitalist.
I don't earn any money. And also, you know what doesn't exist on that island?
property.
Private property.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody owns that island.
Nobody has
It's all public property.
Now, if it's all private property and I don't have money, I probably die.
Money is irrelevant on the island.
Oh, well, so isn't property. Okay, I'll tell you what, dude. If you eliminate private property, I will have no issue with people working to survive.
Yeah, work is good. Work for capitalists, especially when it's compelled by the state powers, is not. It's a different thing.
So if you're alone on the island and you have to work to survive, you're not going to be as well off as if there were someone there who could be your employer and offer you a job. We've already got a system that's established.
What?
You can just easily walk into that and earn a wage.
Wait a second. I'm alone on the island, but there's a boss there?
No,
determine my wage?
Your life would be much easier if there were an employer to help you out.
You know what would be even more...
Wait a second.
That's such punk energy, dude.
If I'm alone... Wait. You're saying my life on the island would be easier if I was working for an employer on the island alone.
How much do you love your boss, Dan?
Can we just talk about Robinson Crusoe for a second? Like, if there was another person on the island, okay, I don't buy that it would be more helpful if he was a boss. But if he was willing to work for you for no wage, that would be ultra helpful, actually, and maybe more historically accurate.
But he wouldn't be a boss.
A random boss just there to tell you what to do and how much you get for how much work you did? That would not be helpful. A boss that just... Is it the idea that the boss just knows productivity so well that he can teach you exactly the way to build the hut and fish for fish? Like, that's just the divine power of bosses?
No, I'm saying that employers are helping you survive. They're not making your life worse. So they're not...
That's not true. What do they do with a political system?
That is an interesting take. But you know what, Dan? We have spent a lot of time on this, and I cannot tell you.
I appreciate it.
Call back in about A equals A. I want to talk to you about A equals A maybe on a Thursday.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
And Dan, your boss
and I am really
appreciates your loyalty.
Sorry about your inability to have children.
If only...
Wait, did I get that right?
No, it's the other way around.
Okay, no. Right. You are fertile.
Do we have his theme song, though? Maybe just to play him out?
I love the idea of a deserted island, but there's an employer.
It is, of course.
I'm alone on this island, except there's a job creator.
The harrowing story of Employer Island.
Robinson Crusoe, LLC.
Dan's a good sport.
Yeah,
Dan's a good sport.
That's the plot to Castaway, right?
You know, Dan sounds older than I think. I mean, is he? I forgot to ask how old Dan was. He sounds older.
That's so funny.
Sounds older than I would imagine he must be.
Well, we should say, though, Dan, as Ayn Rand fans go, you weren't, you're at the top of the heap. Yeah.
I love the libertarians who are not libertarians.
Objectivist.
I know. Yeah,
It's an even more myopic perspective on the world, which is somehow possible.
Penny from New Mexico says, I can't believe you're still wasting time with this guy. I'd much prefer hearing other more thoughtful and important conversations from the MR audience. I've actually turned off the show for long stretches and come back to find you still talking to him. I know I can't. But you missed the part about the deserted island, except for the boss. That's that would have been a twist in Lost, right? Like that.
Yes, right. That's what they find when they find the bunker,
show.
right?
What is this? Is this a job opening? I didn't know there was any civilization on this island.
Oh my God.
I can get in on the ground floor in the mailroom.